The Stagea build has taken months to complete, but through the hard work of a couple of mates, it is on the road and driving. Now it's time to get it on the dyno at Haltech, get it tuned and see how much power we'll be able to make reliably. Tuning Fork is a massive Nissan fan and jumped at the chance to work his magic on the V8 41 Turbo V8.
Today we're down at Haltech, we're tuning the Stagea. It's a little bit of an unknown at this stage, so hopefully Scotty will help us out and make it work. What are your thoughts, Scotty?
I think it's on petrol to start with, which I don't like. Everyone knows that I just like to put it straight on ethanol and just get it done. But this one will be the highest horsepower, highest boosted MCM car?
Potentially, hopefully.
If it's not,
fingers crossed.
We'll just keep working on it till it is.
Let's do it.
Divided by 60, 10 hours of driving, and it actually hasn't been tuned yet. So we've had all the long-term trim stuff set up, and if you want to have a sneak in on there, fuel long-term trim, so you can see here that on the map that we sort of roughed in so the guys could get it started and check for oil leaks or cooling and all that sort of stuff, it's been adding and subtracting fuel as they've been cruising around. So the more you drive it, the closer the tune gets. So what we'll do now is apply that to all the base tables, smooth everything out a little bit, and then we'll start the dyno tune with that, and that'll get us real close to where we need to be straight away. Being a 4-stroke engine, the way that we tune the cars is using volumetric efficiency, which is a formula that determines how much air goes into the engine, like the mass of the air that goes into the engine. Then we figure out how much fuel goes into the engine every time the injectors open and close for a certain amount of time. If we know the amount of air that goes in, the efficiency, and we know the amount of fuel that goes in, then we set up a table, an air to fuel ratio table. The only thing that we don't know is how efficient the engine is. So being a 4-stroke, any 4-stroke, we can just say that typically they're roughly, say, 40 to 50% efficient at idle, somewhere between 80 and 100% efficient when you're under full load. So what we do then is I'll go in and overestimate so that everything's nice and rich to start off with, and the car will drive pretty well normally. And then from there, the O2 controller will start trimming it back and pulling fuel out. We never want to be putting fuel in because if it's running lean, it's unsafe. So from a pretty good educated guess, we can get the car driving pretty well, use the trims, use the knock control, which is also another formula which uses the bore size of the engine. So from the bore size, we can determine the knock frequency, which will get us in the ballpark so that if the engine does detonate, we can set up a whole bunch of stuff to pull a bunch of ignition timing out of it. That'll also be long term, so we can actually look in to see if anything has been knocking. I've had a look at the long term tables in here, which we'll zip down to, and we haven't detected any knock at all. But I have been really, really tame on the ignition timing on this, knowing that we loaded the map into it in Queensland. Because we're using like the GDR platform, the R33 platform from this, the Atessa, or the factory forward drive computer, is being used to control the center diff, so the torque split between the front and the rear. To do that, all the Atessa system uses is a throttle position signal, that's it. So this car, being a little bit different, because it's got an electronic throttle on it, we're going to need to set up an output from the Haltech to control the Atessa pump as well, because we've also got a G meter that, depending if it's set up on this car, is sitting right here under the glove box, which is basically in the center of the car, that determines the pitch and the roll. And then from there, it determines how much power to put where.
What do you predict? Because I mean, this is all a bit unknown. Do you have any predictions about what might get in our way if this doesn't work today?
And the only thing I can see a problem, fuel pump. The GTW turbo, I'm a big fan of. I think they're a real goer. They're a real nice thing that come on really early, but I'm a little bit nervous. I don't think it's got enough fuel pump in it if we do get to ethanol today. Don't get to do that very often.
Idle's nice.
We'll load it up for a while. We've got water temperature up on the dyno here, so we can see all the temperatures. We've set up warnings so that it's going to cut out at 105 degrees Celsius. So the best we can do is just load it up, turn all the fans on, and see what it does.
Tell me what we're about to do.
We're about to beat the shit out of it. That's not really what we're going to do. We've just set everything up, so we're going to do the first power run. So we've done our steady state tuning up to about 4,000 RPM. That's about as game as as keen as I am to go steady state holding. It gets nice and hot. So now we're going to do our first power run. We'll sit back, look at the data from that, and then fill in more parts of the map.
How'd the temperature go?
We're not too bad. You can see on the screen here we're at 89 degrees Celsius at the moment. When we really load it for quite a long time, it goes up to 100 Celsius, but then while it's still under load, the temperature does start to come back down a little bit. So maybe there's something funny in the radiator. It's not staying in the radiator long enough to cool it down, or there's something going on like that.
Beautiful. So what are we about to do now, sorry?
So now it's time for the first power run. So don't expect miracles, but the first power run will normally give us a bit of a shakedown with oil lines falling off, or overflow bottles, or things rattling loose, all sorts of crazy stuff. So we'll give it a power run, turn it off, the boys can check all the mechanical stuff, and we'll just fill the map in and then get ready for the next one.
Yeah, bro.
That's right.
Nice.
Dude, we just matched Supergramps on the first run.
Finally brought us a good engine to use.
Oh, what?
Nissan. Hey, you did Nissan. What do you say?
349 horsepower. That's crazy. First run, no real tune.
Now we've got to
Amazing.
start tuning it.
Happy?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Not bad for a first power run of like an hour of tuning. Scotty's a wizard, man. Just killed it.
So Scotty, yeah, cam control. So we got the solenoids working. Tell me a bit about that.
So we had a few little gremlins where probably they just seized up a little bit from sitting around for so long. So we just applied direct power to them just to warm them up and get everything happening. We've got both of them moving, which took us half an hour, and it was worthwhile doing it because if we have a look at the power graph now, we've got the grey one, which is the cams just turned off the whole time. You can see that it made better power up top, but worse power down low. Whereas the green one, we've got the cams advanced all the time. So it makes more power down low, less power up top. So what we're looking at with the line down the middle there is 5,284 RPM. In our software, we're going to turn the cams off there. So we'll advance the inlet camshafts up until 5,200 RPM. Then we'll turn the outputs off. The cams will retard, so we'll get the best of both worlds. We'll get that low end power, which is quite a lot of power, and then we'll also get the up top. We'll get the best of everything. Well, this motor, it's responded really well to the boost pressure. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do one last run on petrol. Hopefully it'll make in the high 200 kilowatts, and then we'll drain all the petrol out, put it on ethanol, and then start pushing until we run out of fuel pump.
So we've basically finalised the 98 tune, and now it's time to put the corn in. So when we were putting the engine together, we were using some of the airflow fuel quick connect connections. This was the main reason why. So when we're doing the tuning, we can change fuels between 98 or E85 and any blend in between, basically by connecting this to the supply line and then turning on the fuel pump via the Elite, and then pumping whatever fuel's in the tank into the drums. So it completely empties the tank. Then we'll put 5 litres of E85 through to flush the tank again, and then we'll refill it again with the E85.
Yeah, that's all I've been doing, so just go here.
So we've just put, give or take 5 litres in the tank. So it's going to pump that quickly through the lines now, and that'll pull a lot more of the 98 out. And once that's done, we'll put another 5 litres in, just run it through the system, so take the bleed line off, run some fuel through the sensor and see what the ethanol content comes back at. If it's in the window, say between sort of probably 80 and 85%, we'll tune it at that and go from there. No spillage.
So we've just filled it up with United E85, which is typically about 80 to 83%, somewhere around there. Because there was some extra petrol still in the system, we've got to a composition of 72%, which is still really high. We've added a bunch of corrections to add extra fuel because we simply need more fuel to go through the injectors when we're on ethanol. We've added a little bit more ignition timing. We're certainly very conservative with it, but being on ethanol, it's going to take more. So we've added a bit of a correction in. So the first startup, I suppose we'll give it a bit of a start, make sure it's all nice and it all sounds okay. We'll give it a bit of time for some fuel to flush through the fuel rails. And then after that, we'll load it up, we'll do all the light load stuff again and make sure all our corrections are good. Then we'll go straight back into it and we'll do the same boost level and just see how much of an increase we get just changing from petrol to ethanol.
It's worth mentioning that. How much boost is in it, Scott?
This has got 10.9 pounds.
And how much boost control is actually influencing that?
We haven't actually used the boost controller yet.
Benny, that's ridiculous.
I thought we were going to go like 14 pound, bro.
We haven't used the boost control yet. Like it's already making
well, it sounds like we've got another
better part of
for something.
400 horsepower. We haven't even turned on the boost controller. That's insane. Look.
That's awesome, man.
Scotty,
don't worry, we'll turn the boost controller on.
Let's just get into it.
14 pounds. Let's make it happen.
So now all we need to do, Mitch and I can just cruise through all of our load sites, make sure that all the maths is on track and everything looks the way it should. So we'll just double check all the cruising areas, then straight into a power run and we'll see what we can do.
We're doing this, bro.
Let's do it.
Let's tune it.
Let's get a power run.
We're up to 450 horsepower. We haven't added extra ignition timing. We've got pretty much the same boost. It's gone up by about a pound simply because we're adding ethanol and things are starting to become efficient. But I'm having a bit of trouble getting the mixtures under control. And the reason why is because the fuel pump that's in this car is rated at about 550 horsepower. We're making 450 horsepower at the wheels, which means we can do some maths on it, but we can figure it out that we're at a fuel pump. The other reason we can figure it out is that in our data logs, because we've got a rising rate fuel pressure regulator, so we've got 45 pounds of base fuel pressure. If we put 10 pounds of boost in it, it should go to 55 pounds of fuel pressure. We're still staying at 45, it's not rising. So there's no fuel behind the regulator, there's no fuel behind the injectors to get into the engine. So we might have to talk about putting some pumps in this.
Can I just say, Benjamin,
Yeah, mate.
that's 450 horsepower, dude.
It's pretty impressive.
With more in it, like that's on.
It's literally just run out of pump, and potentially it could be 550 with a better fuel system.
Are you excited?
Or a fuel system. I'm very excited.
That's like to drive. That's on the road, Scott. As a guest before we even take it on the road.
It's gonna be turbo V8. It's awesome. Like it's going to be a really nice thing to drive. I'm that excited. Have you got another pump? We can just quickly bodge into it now and just get it done.
I don't have anything, unfortunately.
What did you drive here in?
This. We can't pull the pump out of this and put it in this.
You know he's excited when he's making you change fuel pumps in the middle
Out
of
of
the
another
night.
car.
Hey guys, that's rad. All right, well, so
I have to make a fuel pump carrier.
so is that it, or what do we do?
We go to either probably a dual pump setup, either maybe two of the small 255 litre pumps I really like, and we can stage them so that at higher engine loads the second one will turn on.
Yeah, right.
Probably going to be the nicest thing to do. We do need to figure out a way to get extra wires through the pump holder,
Carrier.
which is always a little bit tricky.
Being a plastic top, we can probably actually run bolts through it. And then I'll ring terminal on each side, maybe.
You could be sensible though, and just this is it. You've built the car, you've done all the work, you've done everything. Just we'll take the boost controller
It'll go
out of it,
forever.
and then just leave it on 10 pounds and 335 kilowatts at the wheels.
Stage one.
335.
It's a good stage one.
That's definitely not what you should do.
Scotty's like, nah.
I was going to say that's the right attitude, but now I think about it, it's not the right attitude.
About? That's the attitude of a Subaru owner.
Hey,
Ooh.
with fragile engines. Hey, dudes, that's awesome. I think you need to take it for a drive, my friend. I might even put a camera in, and we should go with you
Sounds
and
good.
sample your first drive.
Sounds like
Celebrate your 449.9 horsepower.
fun. Pretty impressive for a couple of dudes in a shed.
Not bad, eh?
Not bad.
And a couple of well-informed
And some
chaps.
awesome friends who've managed to help out along the way.
Hell yeah. Happy, Scott?
Yeah, really nice. I'm excited to take it for a drive.
Let's do it.
It's pretty impressive, don't worry. This is pretty cool, man. Pretty awesome to be able to actually drive this thing.
Wow. It just drives like a normal car.
I'll be able to put this around, no worries.
I can't believe that clutch.
For what it looks like.
I honestly didn't think it was a twin plate.
Yeah. It's really impressive, eh?
Yeah, lovely.
Genuinely can't believe how good it is. Wow. That's crazy.
From an idea that was hatched on the highways of Japan through to the completed car, we are very proud to present the finished turbo V8 all-wheel drive manual double unicorn Nissan Stagea.